Hi everyone and welcome to this new speed build in The Sims 4. So I received a few comments from you guys asking me to build a base game house, and here we are. So I took inspiration from houses that I saw growing up, which is why I called this house French inspired, because if you don't know, I am French. I grew up in the countryside of northern France and I tried to recreate the kind of house that you would see here, and I'm really happy with the result. And it's also the second time that I'm building a base game house, and to be honest, those two houses are the ones that I'm the most proud of out of all of the houses I've built in The Sims 4 so far, and I feel like I get really creative and inspired when I have less objects to deal with and building is less overwhelming and a lot more relaxing to me. So this house has 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a living, dining, and kitchen of course, but also a tree house, and I'm really excited to show you guys how that came to be and also show you the tree house. But first, let me talk to you a bit more about the main house, the main building, basically. So I actually got inspired by a picture that I found on Google, because it's not the first time that I thought about building a French house, but every time, you know, the houses that I saw mainly were new houses, and they were basically just cubes with a roof upon it, and older houses were very difficult to recreate in The Sims because most of these houses have rooms under the roof, and as you know, in The Sims 4 it's really difficult to build under the roof, if not impossible. I'm actually thinking maybe trying to build a house more like the ones that I saw growing up, a bit more realistically speaking, that says in The Sims 3 or maybe even in The Sims 2, because even in The Sims 2 building under the roof was more easier than it is in the, or more easy in The Sims 2 than it was in The Sims 3. But anyway, as I said, it wasn't the first time that I thought about building a French house, and I was, you know, looking for some pictures of houses that could be built in The Sims 4, and I came across a picture which, if I can find it, I will leave a link to it in the description so that you can see what I'm talking about. And it actually inspired me a lot because this house looks a lot like houses that I actually could come across where I grew up, and I really liked it. So I tried to recreate that house in The Sims, and by the way, this attempt that you're seeing here is the second one. The first one was, I think, a little bit too big. I actually built the entire structure of the house. But then as I was going inside trying to make the floor plan, I realized that the house was just too big and it was, to me, a little bit unrealistic. And houses that I saw growing up were actually pretty small inside, and you had to be imaginative when it came to furnishing the interior, I think. But yeah, so I just rebuilt the entire main building for it to be a little bit smaller and a bit more realistic to me, and here we are. So also, as you might have seen, I turned around the house because the back door, which is now also the door that leads you to the kitchen, was originally the front door, and I wanted for the house to have this kind of rustic feel to it, and houses that I saw growing up had the front door being also the door that lets you go into the kitchen, and basically the entrance was the kitchen. And it might sound a little bit strange, but this is actually something that I saw a lot growing up. And I thought recreating that in this house, but in the end, as I was, you know, doing the landscaping and decorating the exterior of the house, I realized that the back was actually better looking than the front, so I just turned the house around, and there we are. And I'm actually really happy with this choice. It makes a little bit more sense. So now the entrance area is just in the living room, just like pretty much all houses I've ever built. So also, I really took my time with this house. I redid, I think, the garden area 3 times, and I cut most of it out of this footage because it was very, very long, and in the end it didn't go anywhere. But what you're seeing here, I'm going to redo everything. So the garden area, the little garden area where you can have all of your plants and everything, I'm going to redo that entirely because I wanted to have 2 pathways to go into the garden and into the front of the house, basically. And I wanted to have one side being for the garbage cans and the other side to be a bit more official in a way. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I wanted to have those 2 sides basically, because this was also something that I saw a lot growing up. Although you didn't have all of those gates going inside the garden, you had some sometimes, but not all of the time. But I really liked the way those gates looked, and they actually look a lot like gates that I could have seen growing up on houses. But since I spent so much time in the garden area, I tried to give it a bit more detail, and I also remembered to go into the debug menu. I feel like I remember to go into this menu a lot, and I added a lot of details in the garden. And here I'm actually working on the floor plan, although I cut most of it out because I really struggled to figure out how I wanted the floor plan to be like. Usually when I build in The Sims, I feel like I'm trying to adapt to the way the game functions and how the room system works, and sometimes if I'm thinking using a certain type of window, I'm going to arrange the entire room so that the window could fit properly without really thinking of how I want the room to look like. But here I had an idea of how I wanted the house to be organized, all of the rooms to be organized, and how I wanted the house to look like from outside. And I tried to make the game adapt to how I wanted the house to be, if that makes any sense. I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense actually, but it makes sense to me, so that's what matters, I guess. But anyway, I really tried to make how I wanted the house to look and how I wanted for it to be function in the game, basically. And I really struggled with the floor plan, which is why I cut most of it out, because I think I spent probably an hour just trying to figure out how I wanted everything to be organized in the house. And I think this build took me around 4 hours, maybe 4 hours and a half to build, which is actually quite long for me. And when I saw that it was only 4 hours, I thought, wow, it's actually not that long, because I spent, I think, 3 afternoons working on this house. But I counted out how long it took me to build it from the footage that I had of the house. But there were some moments when I actually stopped recording because I was just trying to figure out how I wanted the garden to look like, which, by the way, is around almost done actually. I'm just going to do some decorating and landscaping, but when it comes to the fence and to the garden area, which is right there, it's pretty much how it's going to be until the end of the speed build. But yeah, I spent a lot of time on this house, but in the end I really had a lot of fun, and I think once again that it comes from the fact that it was just a base game house and that I had to find creative ways to make things work, basically, because I didn't have objects from certain packs, even though I didn't really feel the need to use any items from other packs, except for the bathrooms downstairs, where as I was doing the floor plan, and also as I was working on the interior, I was thinking that in the bathrooms downstairs, I was going to put the laundry machines, but then I remembered that the laundry machines came actually with the laundry day stuff back. So in the end, I just put a counter down there, but you will see that as we go along in the speed build. And so here I'm just placing all of the lamps in the garden, and I had a lot of fun actually using the move objects cheats, and I like the idea of having some lamps on the fence. And at first I thought that those lamps that you had on the gates were going to be lit up in the night, but it's actually not, so I just placed some lamps inside just to have this effect of them being lit up. And when it came to the landscaping, I tried to do something a little bit different, but in the end I just did what I usually do, although I really took inspiration from the garden that my mother had in her house, or at her house I should say. And we had those bushes that were just at some random corners of the garden, and sometimes just in the middle of the garden without really any explanation. Like you had this huge rounded bush in the middle of the garden, and I always thought that it was strange, but my mom just spent hours working on that bush just to make it look perfect. And I tried to recreate that, but I put the bushes in the corners of the garden because I thought that it was going to be a little bit strange to have a random bush in the middle of the garden. And so here I placed this, I don't really know how it's called in English actually, but it's kind of a statue where you have the birds that can come and drink. And I'm going to place actually a rounded bush there. I'm going to place, I think, a couple others at the back. And where I'm going to place the tree house, I decided to go ahead and place a bush that wasn't really well kept, because at the house I grew up, we had the swing sets, and just behind the swing sets we had an old bush that nobody really took care of. And I really like that idea that maybe because it was the place where the children were playing, the parents just didn't have any opportunity to go and take care of the garden in this area, so that's why some of the bush there is just overgrown and everything. So that's something that I thought of, but you will see that as we go along. And so here I'm just working on the outdoor area, and I'm just resizing a little bit the outdoor eating area because I thought that it was a little bit too big. This poor little table seemed so small in the middle of this huge place, And I used this barbecue because it seemed a bit more realistic to me. You know, people usually have barbecues that, or actually in France, they have barbecues that they can put back in the garage when it's the winter. And I also decided to place this bench under the tree because this was also something that we had at my mother's house, and I've known so many people who had those bench in their garden. Just, you know, they were planted on the ground, so you could not move them. They were sometimes made of wood or sometimes made of stones. And I just placed it there as a decoration. And also, I did play and test this house. Everything works perfectly, although I had to remove the decoration that I put just above the front door, and I had to move up a little bit the one that I put just above the back door, because for some reason the Sims could not get inside the house. That was the only thing that I had issues with. And so here is actually where I placed the overgrown tree, because this is where I thought that I was going to place the... At first I was thinking about the swing set, but then I remembered that they came with seasons, and here I decided to place those separations. I don't know how they were called, you know, those wooden thing here, because I was really thinking about the idea that this house, you know, the people who lived in this house tried to take care as much as they could of the garden and of the bushes that separated the house, the terrain, from the rest of the world, but they had works, you know, they had jobs and everything. They didn't really have the time to take care of it, so sometimes they... So basically I was imagining that the bushes were growing on those wooden things, and some areas, on some areas of the garden, the bush just didn't manage to grow. And so basically here is also where I'm going to start working on the tree house. I decided to place the monkey bars, and then I saw the dollhouse, and I was like, I remember when I was a kid, I had this plasticky outdoor house, you know, it was just a toy, but I loved it. And I remember that when I was 7 or 8, in late spring and early summer, I was actually eating my breakfast in that house. And as I saw the dollhouse, I was like, oh, maybe this can be kind of like that, you know, like this plasticky house where I could actually go inside. But then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and build my own tree house and have the kids just place their toys there and place their dollhouse and everything. And so this is what I did, and everything is usable inside. I played and tested it, and I was so happy to see that the Sims could actually use it. But even if they hadn't been able to use this house, I would have left it just as a decoration, because it was just, I don't know, I was so proud of me to just have thought of it, and I felt really creative at that moment, so here you go. So basically in that in this tree house, this is just the kids' space. No adults are allowed. And this is actually also when I started thinking about what kind of family would be living in this house. And I started thinking about maybe 2 parents who had 3 children. They had a teen daughter and 2 twins children, one being a girl and the other one being a boy. And in this not dollhouse, I don't know what I have with dollhouse. Anyway, in this tree house, this is where the twins went to go and play together. And I also decided to decorate a bit more the inside, and I placed some toys on the fence just aside the stairs. And I was really imagining that the parents had built this tree house, and then the kids just said, okay, this is our territory now, you cannot go inside anymore. And they just did whatever inside. And I also thought about placing a toy chest, but in the end, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to place it in one of their rooms, and they're just going to bring their toy here. But I placed so many little decorations all around the place because, you know, it's no adults allowed, so the children don't have to tidy up this place. And yes, as you can see, I'm right now placing all of the toys on the fence just next to the stairs because I thought, you know what, why not? It seems cool, and this is definitely something that I would have done as a kid. And yeah, as I was also building this tree house, I was almost about to say dollhouse. As I said, I was thinking about the dynamics of the family, and I was especially thinking about the twins, and I'm so excited also to show you their bedrooms because they're not going to be sharing the same bedroom, but these two, I think would be very interested in science. I think actually that the girl would be very into space, while the boy would be very into minerals and gems and crystals and analyzing all of those elements from the earth and just trying to understand how it works, while the little girl would be very fascinated by the stars, by the clouds, by the Milky Way and all of that. But yeah, you will see that as I will be working on their bedroom. And so here I'm just placing some plants all around those wooden fence because I was still thinking about the fact that these were just not really well taken care of, and that's why you had all of those plants growing everywhere, and I think it gives a bit more depth in some ways to the garden. It makes it look a bit more alive, you know. Also, when it comes to the garden area, you know, where you can grow the plants and everything, I thought about placing debug plants there, but I didn't find any. But I know that I could have gone into not build mode, into the gallery and find someone who had shared some of those plants already grown. But then I thought, you know what, you can just plant your plants there and can add a little bit of a challenge. And it's just a free house where you can do, or free house kind of, where you can do whatever. Also, in this space where I placed the lounge chairs, I just had no idea what to place here. And I was imagining maybe that sometimes the family has reunions and the grandmother and the mother, or maybe the aunt or whatever, could just come to the lounge chair and relax together and chat about, I don't know, work or whatever. But here is actually when I'm starting working on the interior of the house, and I didn't want to use any wood flooring on the main level because this wasn't something that I saw a lot in houses that I saw growing up, and most of the time people had those tiles on the ground or kind of like bricks. But I'm actually going to change the flooring with the one that's currently outside, and I'm going to change the one outside for one that looks a bit more tainted. And I think it was the best choice because it looks a lot better in the outside. You know, it looks like it has been raining a lot on it and it's really old and it needs to be cleaned a little bit. It looks a bit more realistic to me. And so here I'm working on the living room, and it's a very small little space, but usually living rooms where I grew up, they aren't very big spaces. You know, you just have a couch, sometimes a TV, you have a bookshelf, and that's pretty much it. And you don't really have enough space to do anything else in there. But something that I didn't really like in this living room was the fact that you could actually see what, you know, the behind of the TV. I didn't like that because, I don't know, it's not that pretty. So what I'm gonna do is just use one of those room dividers and put it behind the TV as if, you know, it was separating the entrance from the living room, and it gives a bit more privacy to the space. I'm also going to use columns, and I'm going to place, I don't really know how they're called. It's not fences, it's friezes, I think that's how they're called, just to, you know, to show this separation, as if this half wall used to be a full-on grown wall, but they had to leave it there because otherwise the room would have just, you know, the ceiling would have just scrambled all over the place, if that makes any sense. But I tried to decorate a bit more the houses, although this is actually when I realized that in the base game you don't really have that much choice when it comes to wall decorations. Even with the different packs you don't really have that much choice, but you do have a bit more options, and this is something that I hope in the future they will be improving, because I try not to use too many times the same paintings on the wall. I don't think I used twice the same painting, but it was very difficult, and I feel like the walls are a little bit empty. But I was thinking that maybe if you play in this house you can replace the paintings by maybe family pictures, or leave the paintings there and place pictures where there's empty walls or stuff like that. And yeah, that was something that I was thinking of. And so here is when I'm placing the divider behind the TV, because it just bothered me. I liked where the TV was placed, but I didn't like the fact that we could see the back of it. And here is when I'm moving on to the dining area, and this room is once again very small, but yet again to me it seems very realistic. And I like also the fact that the stairs are hidden in the room. This is actually something that I like to look at when I go to someone's place. I like to see where the stairs are for some reason. And I like, especially when the stairs are hidden and you don't really know where they are, like it's not the first thing you see in the house. It seems like the house has secrets to me, and that's what I wanted to try and do with this house, and I'm really happy with it. Also, I used this grandfather's clock because this was definitely something that you could see in different houses that I've been to, and this was also something that we had at my parents' place. And I also placed this toddler's chair, even though I didn't place any other toddler items, but that was actually inspired by my childhood home, because we did have this toddler's chair or high chair that I used to use when I was a kid, and then my sister used it, but we still kept it in the kitchen for some reason. Nobody used it, it was just there sometimes to place some towels and stuff. But I like that idea that, you know, the parents just were attached to that item and they decided to keep it. But yeah, so here I'm moving on to the kitchen, and I really struggled with the kitchen. I think I spent almost an hour trying to figure out how to place everything inside because it's a very small space and I wanted to have this table that was kind of breakfast table and not this formal dining room, you know, dining table and or anything. It's just where you eat your breakfast quickly before you leave for school, or maybe when you have a lunch break very quickly and you need to eat something very briefly, or maybe sometimes when you eat a snack in the middle of the afternoon. But with all of the items that we need to have in a kitchen, it was very difficult to just place everything. But I'm actually really happy with how everything turned out. I like where I've placed the microwave because it seems a little bit hidden as well, even though it's not really that hidden. And also when it comes to the decorations and the decorative items, I really tried to go into a bit more details. I think I talked about this in a previous build, maybe not the previous one, maybe the yellow desertic house one. I talked there that I was trying to go ahead and add a bit more details to my houses and not be as lazy as I used to be. And this house just shows that I tried to go into a bit more details. And also I played and tested the kitchen. I know that all of the counters have something on it, but because I used move objects cheat on the counters that's just next to the stove, technically there is nothing on this counter, so the Sims can actually use it to cook and bake everything they want to do. And here I think I'm almost done with the kitchen. I'm just once again adding a lot of details everywhere. Also, something that I really liked with the items that I've used is that they all look pretty old, and I was thinking that maybe the parents inherited most of all the items that are here. Okay, so I just got interrupted quickly. I don't remember what I was talking about. But anyway, let's move on. So here I'm working on the bathrooms downstairs, and I was actually thinking that this could have been a laundry room. And I'm going to go back into this bathroom because I almost said bedroom. No, this bathroom, and I'm going to add a shower because as I was furnishing the upstairs, I realized that only one bathroom for 5 people might be a little bit tricky and quite challenging, so I decided to just go ahead and go downstairs and add a shower. And this is also something that I saw in houses that I visited or that I went to, or you know, that I saw when I was growing up, and people were just expanding a bit more their bathrooms. Sometimes they were adding showers, they were just adding a bit more luxury in a way, a bit more comfort into their home. And as you might have seen also in these bathrooms downstairs, I decided to add some counters for the sink, and that's because I was thinking that one of them could have been the laundry area, maybe where you could have had the laundry machine or maybe the dryer. But here is when I'm working on the parents' bedroom, and I've played and tested this room. Everything was working fine. I was worried that because of the dresser, the Sims could not access the bed, and they cannot sit on one side of the bed, but they can access both sides, and they can go to sleep on both sides, which is great. They just cannot sit on one side of the bed, which is not really such a problem, I think. And I also tried to decorate a bit more this room, but it's such a small room that I couldn't really add too much detail. But here I'm actually moving on the upstairs, and this landing area is going to be pretty much empty. I'm going to add this dresser here as if, you know, it was used to put some towels in it, or maybe some sheets or whatever. So this is a pretty simple little landing area, although I'm going to change the doors because the doors that I used are doors that can fit on 2 tiles, but because the bathrooms have only a small door for 1 tile, I thought that it looked strange, you know, that there was this single door that was so different from the others, so I just replaced all of the other doors with the exact same one that you had for the bathroom. And here I'm actually working on the boys' room. So this is one of the twins' room, and I struggled actually with the layout of his room because there was this window which I really like. I really like the shape of this window. It's definitely almost exactly like windows that you could see here. But I really wanted for him to have a desk area. I wanted for him to have a toy chest, I think it said. Anyway, and I wanted for him, of course, to have his bed, to have an end table, to have a dresser. I just wanted for him to have a bunch of things. But because this room is so small and the way it's laid out, it was actually very difficult to furnish it. And I was actually thinking using a 1-tile desk, but there are none actually in the base game, it was definitely very challenging, and I didn't see any dining table that I could have used that actually could have looked like a desk or even just a homemade desk. None of them was actually working properly, so I was just left with this simple desk here. But I'm going to go back into his room and change the dresser as well when I'm going to work on his sister's room. And here I'm actually just navigating all throughout the menu, and I'm finding all of those items that you can only find in the debug menu or sometimes in game. And as I came across this little alien, I was thinking that this is actually when I was really thinking that he could have been a very scientific little person. So this is when also I'm going to decorate his walls with some pictures from, I think, gems and, you know, when you're analyzing a crystal or stuff like that. Also, I came across those My Sim dolls and I decided to give each of the children one My Sim doll. So he had the Leaf doll, his sister had, I think it's Lindsay, and their big sister had the zombie one. And I'm going to talk about the big sister in just a second. And also the twins had those splushy, those little splushy thingy toy, you know, that came with one update with the free holiday stuff pack, because I did use some items from that pack, but I mean, it's a free pack, so I figured that most of you guys would have had it as well. But if you don't have it, you're just going to have a couple items removed, I think. But here I'm working on the little girl's room, which is also the other twins' room, and she's going to be all about space. And I thought that she was maybe chatting with some people, that's why she has some postcards, and she really wants to travel. But I like the idea that the twins had those two toys in common and that they were just trying to share as much as possible. And I'm also going to add a window just on another wall for the little boy's room. And I was thinking that maybe in the middle of summer or sometimes in the middle of the night they were just chatting through their windows, because technically those windows are just next to each other, so they were just chatting this way. And I think they have moved from different rooms not that long ago, and they have been sleeping on their own for maybe just a few months, and it's been a little bit difficult for them to adjust. But here I think I'm almost done with the little girl's room, and then I'm going to move on to the bathroom, which is going to be very simple. I'm just going to use a shower tub combo, a toilet, and a sink. And I also decided to go ahead and add some laundry. And as you can see also, as you might have seen in the little boy's room, and I'm going to do the same thing in the little girl's room, I've placed a lot of dirty clothes on the ground because I thought that these two, they weren't the most organized for now, and they were just throwing their clothes where they could because they just wanted to have fun and just enjoy their childhood as much as possible. And as usual, I'm decorating the bathrooms. But yeah, as I was decorating the rooms here, that's when I was thinking that maybe I should add a shower in the bathroom downstairs, because if a child is using this bathroom and one parent wants to use a bathroom as well, I guess they should be able to use a bathroom downstairs. You know, it would make a bit more sense. But here I'm starting working on the teen girl's bedroom. And I was thinking that, you know, she was maybe 13, 14 years old, so she was still trying to figure out who she was. And maybe a couple years ago, she was really into metal music, maybe rock music, or she liked maybe zombies and horror games or horror movies, and that's why she had this zombie sim doll, or My Sim doll, that she also shared with her brother and sister. But, you know, she's still highly attached to that doll, so she still has it on her desk, but she has changed a little bit, and she's a bit more interested in fashion now. And she's trying to have a bedroom that looks a bit more like all of her friends' bedrooms, and I'm going to place some fairy lights actually on the wall because I thought that it just looked very great, and I'm going to do the same thing just above her bed. And yeah, she's just trying to make her room look like the ones that she saw, you know, her best friend's rooms maybe, or just trying to make it look a bit like a grown-up room. And by the way, she can actually use her desk. I thought that I was just going to leave it there and have this desk be just decorative, but the Sims can actually sit on this chair, which is really cool. I was really happy to see that. But here is actually her bedroom, and then, as I said, I'm just going to go back downstairs, add a shower in the bathroom downstairs, because, as I said, I just wanted to have a bit more options for the parents to use the shower if they needed to. And then I'm going to go back outside and I'm going to decorate a bit more the garden area, because I found, as I was just scrolling through the menus, I found some items that could actually be used in the garden, such as a watering can and all of that. But anyway, I'm actually almost done building this house, so I really hope that you guys like this house. Of course, in the description you will find all of the information to download it on the gallery, but you can also find it in-game using my origin ID, which is Mojam11. And yes, so let me know what you think about this house in the comments. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope that you will enjoy the rest of this video, and I will talk to you in the next one.